Don't forget to suck some titties.
And titties. That is what I've been accumulating a lot these days. No, I don't have a maid feeding me pasta, but I'll tell you what, the titties are growing. You know, I'm a man. I've learned to appreciate the body. Love your body for what it is. Except if you're Lizzo. Because now apparently she's all body positivity. And then now, because now she's thin, now she's saying, oh. You know, I think the body positivity, it was misused. It's like, oh, so now we're just moving the goalpost for what's convenient. Well, you know what? Me too. Because you know what? I love my titties. My titties have well, this episode's already been demonetized, but who gives a shit? Because you know what? Anything involving titties and pasta should never be demonetized. It should be promoted. Like, I would honestly, if I could buy a billboard right now for advertisement, it would just be, there's only two things a man wants when they retire: pasta and titties. Now, I had retirement a little early, and then I had to come out of retirement. Never take your 401k out. But yeah, it's amazing. I love titties. I love pasta. But you know, I don't know if I've ever had a kink for like, because it's weird. If you love two things, right? Should you combine it together? I've never thought about eating pasta off a lovely lady's body. But now I think about it, you know, seems feasible. Seems like something, you know, but what type of noodles do you pick? Pick an angel hair, you know. Do a little, you know, rigatoni tits. What sauce do you use? I think white sauce would always be, you know, it's a little bit more thicker. You know, red sauce, it doesn't seem like it's really palpable. This if I had OnlyFans, I would probably, you know, pretend like, oh, look, he's rubbing some lotion on her. It's like, nope, it's not lotion. But yeah, no, but in all seriousness, you know, I think it's important as a man to embrace your body as it ages. I do think I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to actually have to watch what you eat. I'm actually having to start to get to, man, I needed to do some exercises that involve the waist. Because I'm a waist man. Involving core. I will never take for granted having a job that actually makes you move to just keep the weight off. Like, I don't need a job to where you're killing yourself every day, burning 4,000 calories, taking 18,000 steps. But, you know, people complain about that stuff. It's like, you know, you're not only getting paid, but, you know, keeping your health in check. So you fuck up your body so bad that you can't move. But the weird part is, when you have that job, you can eat all the pasta you fucking want. Nowadays, have a few bowls in a day, and all of a sudden, good fella. Yeah. But I don't know what, you know, I gotta say, there's this fascination with, it's weird that now we have a lot of media that involves reacting to a thing of a reaction. It's a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. It's a reaction to something we saw. Everything is just reaction. And I don't know what, you know, and I gotta admit, I think being pushed things, because really a lot of people don't even go on these browsers, go on these search engines with an intention to actually search for something in particular. Me included. Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm a lot better about it recently. But I went through a little bit of a pretty long span where I realized I sat one day and I'm like, I haven't searched for a single thing. I have just been accepting whatever they want to throw at me. Whatever media, whatever entertainment, whatever, cat fight. I've been watching a lot of cat fighting videos, and I gotta say, all cat fights look the same. Imagine if humans actually fought like cats, where we just get in each other's faces and purr and before we just scrabble and we just start tossing and turning in a quick. Like, it would actually be kind of scary if we had cat-like reflexes. Like, cats have faster reflexes than snakes. Well, not my snake. That was terrible. But, but nah. But I guess they call it meta when it's a lot of, we're in this universal reactionary system where it's every form of content now is a reaction to something. It's an opinion. But I can handle opinions, but there are people out here making hella amount of money doing reaction videos where they don't say much of anything, where they are legitimately just sneezing, where they are legitimately just looking at something, opening their mouth like, whoa. This whole Sniper Wolf controversy where there was someone that criticized her for making reaction videos, but they're not reacting or really putting any original input. They're just playing a thing, and it's a video of them watching the thing. You see eye movement, you see eyebrows, you may see a whoa, and that's that. And that's where, it's weird that there's people in, like, YouTubers that get copyright strikes for giving opinions about things or being shadow banned for basically being hidden because they don't want their thoughts being promoted or whatever, or it's not safe for the community guidelines. And then you got people that literally contribute no original thought. They're basically using someone else's video and just attaching their face in it and getting a shitload of views and money and all that stuff, and that's whatever. But there was nothing really original about it. They just did some things in the editing to make it where it didn't detect through the software, the YouTube software, to actually, hey, this is you're not really doing anything here. They just do everything to avoid that void. I don't know where I was going with all that. But yeah. It's just odd to me how it amazes me. And I'm not saying I'm innocent because I've watched some of this stuff. Like watching people react to music, watching people react to videos. I think there's a fine line. Like if you were doing videos and you're actually giving original thoughts and opinion about everything in a real way, that's great. But I think we got to be a lot better about creating original content. And because I think the reason why reaction channels are safe is because you're not like hidden in this solo isolation of opinion. You can convince a lot of people reacting in real time about something, but having to explain your opinion or your thoughts about something without any backing, without any distraction, it kind of makes it a safe place. And I think people just feel it's kind of like a protected bubble. It's kind of safe, so I don't know. I don't know where the fuck I was going with all that, but yeah. This Aaron the Plumber guy, mad respect. You know, we live in a I hate the word culture. It's one of the most overused words. Culture, society is two of the most overused, vague, simplified, means nothing, but people seem to think it means something type of thing. But this Aaron the Plumber dude, I gotta say, you say what you want. The dude's ready at all times. And he is the definition of, as much as you want to hate it, he's a product of what social media rewards. It's funny how people are on a reality show. And I think reality shows were designed to show the worst parts of stereotypical culture. Of whatever are the predominant figures, wherever the predominant race is, or wherever the predominant economic class. Think about what the Real Housewives are. The Real Housewives are supposed to show the most extremist, snobbiest versions of people with that type of capital. People who live in that world. Oh, my husband, he's a real estate mogul. Whatever the fuck that means. Translation, you're going to be going to court in 5 years for embezzlement. Hence, Teresa. You got that. The whole idea, I truly do believe, and I'm not someone in like, there's people behind the scenes and the Jews trying to expose this. I do think reality shows were not designed for entertainment because I don't really think anyone watches that shit for entertainment. I think what it's designed for is to expose the worst parts or the perceived worst parts of whatever quote unquote culture that is. And to make people that already have these biases and they watch that and it confirms whatever they hate about that. That's what I think. And Aaron the Plumber is the definition of a guy that has a prison background, has a trade job. Like, he's a legitimate plumber. Has made this fame, like, goes on these reality shows, and it's pretty obvious. Like, I don't really think this dude's, like, actually that mad all the fucking time, taking his shirt off, ready to fight all the time. But the dude really will punch you. And, but these shows are not designed to be real life. Like, the people on these shows, it's odd to me that I would honestly be ashamed. Like, if I was on one of those shows and I played up something for fame or something, I would be ashamed about that. But I get why people do it. And the people on the show is like, oh, he's taking off his tank top to show his little muscles. Like, that's not little muscles. Those are not. Those are. I do 50 pull-ups before breakfast muscles. And he's about to beat your boyfriend's ass too. So, and it's always ways, and what these shows expose is that it's ways to tear people down. The people within the show tear down the people within the show. So it kind of makes everyone from the outside look at you as jokes. And I remember because I used to watch, my mom, she used, like most, mothers and women. Back in the day, the housewives stuff was like the shit. Orange County, it was mainly Orange County. God, those ladies were god damn it. You had the DC, the New York. I'm trying to think of the other ones. It's been a while since I've seen this shit, but I remember the ladies solely. And especially the New Jersey ones. Those were Teresa. I love that they had like the strong accents when they be arguing and shit. Like, huh? And the guys would always just be sitting there like, we're gonna be going to jail for these bitches. They're like, only she knew that I was committing fraud on the side. She wouldn't have to do all this. It's weird. It's weird how you would want to go on a show that kind of exposes you to of your crimes you're doing behind the scenes by placing more of a light of the weird shit. Like, why? How do these people have all this money? And they never actually say how they have all this money. Should kind of tell you something. But I just think these reality shows, you gotta remember, like, they're mostly not real. And I gotta say, like, the Portia Williams stuff, not to get too deep in the weeds here, I think she was probably like on the Real Housewives of Atlanta or some shit. She married a guy named Simon. This is an older guy. Like, no one ever thought they were actually going to be together for long term. But whatever. That's not even really the point here. Like, people that are on these shows for multiple years and stuff, like, you cannot take these people serious. They are not there for entertainment. It is literally there to promote the worst aspects of stereotype. And that's unfortunate because all it does is it gives people who have this comfort, and it kind of gives them an avenue to splur out. Because their jobs, really the jobs of these shows are to relay whatever stereotype. And they create environments, they create circumstances, they do things for scripted television so they can feel like they're part of TV. When in reality, they're using their real life image. And they're kind of damaging that real life image for a quote unquote reality scripted show. That's really what the trade-off is. Like, if you do a movie, like, you can be in a Django Unchained movie. No one thinks that the actors that play, no one thinks Leonardo DiCaprio is actually racist or would do anything close to what he does in that movie. But people on these people really think like this is their get down. They're using their real name, their images are attached to a overplayed thing. And that's why I'm here to promote my new reality show next month. That'll be wild. I don't even know what I would be the most boring reality show ever. I don't know, maybe I would play up to the camera a little bit. That would be, I don't think I would ever want to do a reality show. Imagine if they did podcasting reality shows. Like that would be the worst show ever. Get a bunch of mid-level podcasters together, live in a house like Big Brother, and they all have to podcast all day, every day. And like, instead of talking to, when they do their solo interviews of like what happened in this scenario, they just get on a podcast and just air out episodes. I don't know. That may be something to think about. But yeah. Yep. But yeah, going back to the reaction. There's this I'm about to be reacting to a podcast that reacts to other podcasts, 2 reactions of podcasts, if that makes any sense. There's this podcast show. Maybe they could do one of me. I wouldn't even mind it. I'm not someone, I wouldn't even get bent up in arms if they did one about me, even if it is negative. There is this podcast called Who Are These Podcasts? Where they do a podcast, a group of guys, mostly, and then a woman with a really deep voice. And they literally react. Most of their shit, honestly, is reacting to like Opie and Anthony and stuff like that. Of them doing their current stuff separate and their back and forth. And really just like kind of nostalgic of early 2000s unfiltered radio when it was at its high point. And kind of like their failure. The show is really just highlighting failures in podcasts, and like podcasts that are just really terrible, even if it's on a low level, but it has enough of a fan base. And they did one about this paintball, right? A paintballing podcast where it's just a group of guys that just love paintballing. They actually have, they don't have the most subscribers or anything like that. But they have a core fan base where they have sponsors. They have people that enjoy that. Paintball is very niche. Paintball is not it's not football. It's paintball. Like, that's not gonna be a podcast that's gonna get 200,000 followers. It's just realistically not unless you have a big name before it. But they've been doing it for 12 years. Just a group of middle-aged dude, whatever. That's just a fun thing they do on the side, on the weekends, whatever. And these guys, it was kind of funny to me. And the weird part is I like this show. Who are these podcasts? Because you know what? Sometimes it's good not to take yourself too serious. If you are going to do something, like, not everything is about, like, you are above the arts and all that shit. Like, it's podcasts. And, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't cringe from listening or watching certain podcasts. Or, like, sometimes I listen to the show and I learn about a show and I'm like, God damn. And you realize, like, man, it may not be the best, but Jesus Christ, I ain't this bad. And then, there's a conflicting part of me where it's like, I don't really like being that overly negative about that stuff either. So it's like a vice of mine. I enjoy watching it if they're shitting on a show that is actually people that are just like trying to sell some bullshit, or they're sketchy ass people, they're taking advantage of people, they're just bad people, then it's enjoyable to watch. But when they're making fun of and shitting on someone's show because it's just a group of regular guys that just enjoy paintball and they talk about whatever they want on their show, even if the show is kind of corny or the stuff's not anything you're interested in, they're obviously not doing it to make a living. It's not like, it's obviously just something they enjoy doing. It's a common paintballing. It's a common thing, an interest they have to get, and it gives them an excuse to come together and do something fun with it. And it was like the first time watching them shitting on this paintball show, making fun of every little segment because it's not funny, it's not perfect, or whatever. They never get to the thing they say they talk about. And it's like, all right, like, I get it. That's, the theme of your show, what you're supposed to do. But it's weird to get, like, this, like, critical of a show that obviously doesn't take itself to the serious point. They're not trying to sell you a bunch of merch. They're not trying to sell you. They're just a group of guys sit around and use paintball as a source of their main common interest. And they've been doing it for, like, 12 years, apparently. And I was like, will I ever watch or listen to an episode? Probably not. It's not my thing. They're not my cup of tea in terms of guys that I would listen to. But it's also weird to have a whole show, a whole thing dedicated to just negativity. I understand being negative and being critical of really, like, the bigger podcasts that are doing the bare minimum. They're being lazy to their fans, just putting out bullshit when they got fans that have committed to them because of this value they have sold over time. And then they've kind of just melded in, gotten lazy and stuff like that. Those are the ones that deserve some type of criticism. But just random guys in the middle of Arkansas that enjoy paintballing, they have their show they do. They're not trying to make it the biggest show in the world. It's just something they do. And you go and you make it like your life's mission to just shit on it. And I like the show. And that's the thing. Like, I like the show. But I'm listening to this, and it kind of makes me reflect on, like, man, like, am I watching? I'm not a negative. I don't like consuming negative shit all the time. Right. Unless it's actually informational or something that's actually necessary. But to invite when someone's theme of the show, when their theme of the show is just, we're going to just shit on whatever thing we watch today. To me, I think they should be honest with themselves and maybe do one on them. Like, you got to look at, like, no show, no person, no anything is perfect. And you also got to think about do you want your whole shtick to be just everything everyone else is doing, not to your entertainment expectation, when obviously the audience isn't you. When you gotta look at, like, someone could break down your show and find everything that's uninteresting and how it's kind of childish and how you're grown men criticizing other grown men for doing the same thing you're doing. Or they were criticizing these two girls that, look, they're not girls that I would ever watch. Like, they're kind of, whatever. But the title of it was literally these LA, I forgot what the title was, but basically these LA wannabes or these LA whores. I think it was like these LA whores. It was like, that's a wild ass title, bro. Over two girls you don't know. These LA whores are sleeping their way through LA. And it's like, nowhere in their shows are they talking about sleeping their way. They make their money off social media. Is it stuff I enjoy? Not really. But they're not sleeping their way through LA and calling them whores or whatever they call them. It was like, what's really the point of this? It wasn't like the biggest shows. Two girls that, would it be annoying to listen to their show? Yeah, probably. It's too much noise in the back. It's whatever. It's not but two people just trying to do something for themselves, enjoying. I don't see why that deserves a 38-minute video of just shitting on them, And I like to look at the comments when I've developed my opinion. I don't like look at the comments before I watch a video. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, am I the only one that feels weird about this? Like, and I go in the comments and everyone's like, you're literally, you're grown men, you're criticizing this of other people, just doing their own thing. And I think we do live in a society where if something doesn't fit their cup of tea, people automatically assume that it's not for everyone. And I think what you realize, kind of getting to actually a point here, 8 men's getting to a point. I think you really realize, especially with middle-aged people like 40s, 50s, older individuals, they really focus so much more on mainstream and broadness. Because they're from that Sirius XM, the Howard Stern, the Opie and Anthony's, and radio, where it was paramount for radio to be promotion and to be as entertaining to the masses as possible. And what people don't realize is now everything is so much more niche, right? Like, the only general type of shows that are maintaining is people that started way before it was very algorithm or it was very niche specific. Nowadays, it's almost like you've got to be a lot more specific and niche in what you talk about, your intention. Because if you just talk about general broad topics, unless you're a big name going into it, you're just going to be a person that grifts, person that just talks about whatever the wind blows, and people will blow with and without you. And people basically choose only a couple people when they talk about anything. Like, people go to specific people for specific things. People go to automotive channels to learn about automotive stuff. People go to Tucker Carlson when they want to talk about Russia and Ukraine. People go to Alex Jones when they want a conspiracy. People go to Eddie Bravo when they want more. People go to specific things for specific things. So that's why I like when I'm in the mood to listen to a podcast be shitted on, I go to this channel. And then, so you kind of have to check yourself on a lot of these things. But what I realized, and I think is a fair criticism, guys like this and people that come from that media area, you hear they talk about stuff. It is really, there's only one way to captivate an audience. And it's to be, oh, you got to be technical in this. Oh, now you're repeating. Like, they're so focused on how they used to listen to shows, how they used to do repeat, like, oh, you're going on with a bit too long. You're going on with this. You're talking about this or whatever. In reality, people don't care about that shit anymore. People don't care about everything being stylized or format. That's kind of the whole point. And the issues with podcasting is people complain about, it's funny how like people used to complain about commercials on radio. People used to complain about commercials on TV. Guess what? You have all these streaming services, these HBOs, the Peacocks, the Netflix and Hulu. You have Spotify, you have all these podcasts, and guess what? There's still, I would argue, it feels like there's more advertisements. I was listening to the Iced Coffee Hour, and I love the show. But they will be sneaky about it. Like, I listened to an episode, it was like a few weeks ago, about, I forgot who was on the show. But it was literally, and I count, like, literally within the first 20 minutes, there was 3 advertisements. And I'm like, all right, cool. And like another 15, like, and then it was another advertisement, another 8 minutes, another advertisement. And they'll wind them in to the show. Like, literally, there was like 6 or 7 advertisements through an hour and a half podcast. And it really does kill the momentum. And I don't know, man. It just, people complain about radio, and then they want the versions of radio, and then complain about old radio heads not changing. And yet, the things they still want from podcasting is to be like radio. It defeats the purpose. Anytime advertising is involved, it is not what the original form was. The Tonight Show is not the same. Podcasting is not the same. Like, advertising, like, if you accept advertisements and that's your main source of income, then you are basically TV. And the more you really learn about, like, advertisement is what runs media. Advertisement runs TV. Really, your show is just an excuse for the advertisements. When you really break it down. You notice how they'll have paid programming infomercials where it's just a full 30 minutes, hour long of just an advertisements. You're not going to watch an hour long show on any network without advertisement. Advertisement is the mainstay that keeps shit running. They spend more money on advertisement than the actual shows. Like, that's why when they're like, oh, no one cares about directors and writers and creators and shit like that, it's like, well, it's not that they don't care about you, but you got to understand, they got advertised. Like, your show's not going to fit into whatever advertising. Like, you got to be a certain individual that has a proven track record for them to just pick up whatever show. That's why I just like this whole thing of, oh, you just got to work your way up in TV and stuff like that. That's not really a thing anymore. So, I don't know. It is kind of odd. God, I miss watching softcore porn. Not really. You know, it was all about that stuff. Not to get too explicit here. I think it's weird. I never went out. Look, I'm not going to say how. But look, man, we all got the free trials. I remember the first time I watched softcore videos, right? I didn't seek it out. It was on the telly. Everyone knew when you got the free trials for Stars, HBO. all those nice little, every couple months, DirecTV be like, hey, you got 4 days. And you'd be like, yeah, that's great. All the movies are playing. I'm waiting till 2 a.m. And you watch these videos and you're like, when you're younger, you're like, this shit's kind of lame. Because, online is the real thing. And in these in these movies, quote unquote, you would never see the real thing. It would always be simulated. Like, you wouldn't see the real thing. And when you're younger, you almost like, you just want to see it, Like, the whole imagination, the following the storyline thing didn't matter too much. I gotta be honest. I think now I would enjoy those type of movies more than actually watching the real thing. I don't watch either of this stuff, I don't have time for that. Well, I do, but that's what I tell myself. I don't have the time to watch that nonsense. But I honestly think I would enjoy watching softcore pornos than the actual real shit. Because I do think the older you get, the follow the imagination, the idea, the build up, all that stuff matters a little more when you get older. You're just like watching it. Like, I don't just want to watch, two people go at it. I want to watch a guy's shadowed head in her crotch, from a POV distance. But you don't actually see what he's doing. You just see him. You just see his head movement. You're like, I can imagine. But yeah, I don't know what the whole point of that was. But yeah, no, I do think the older you get, God, I hope none of my employees just ever watch this show. They're going to be like, hey, we think you're a great fit. And then after a couple of days, they'll be like, hey, we're going to need you to come to the office. And they'll be like, hey, we've done some, we just don't think you're the right fit for the job. And you're just like, what? I've been told I've been doing great. And like, look, we're going to break it down to you. And they turn the laptop over and they pull this clip right here. And they're just like, I'll be like, it's not like we sell this shit, It's like, chances are someone here sold a rope to someone in the past month, and they've done something with it. I don't know what I would do if I worked somewhere and I knew someone was trying to, hurt themselves with something. And I knew they were getting the thing to hurt themselves, Let's say you work at a hardware store. Someone comes in and, you could tell they're down on their luck. They want to get some nice rope. And you know why they're getting it. You see the state of the man. You're just like, it's that time, isn't it? Do you try to stop it? Do you report it? Do you just try to be like, you know what? Do you try to redirect them to something that's not going to be as effective? Because you want to be like, hey, I tried. I tried to lessen the blow. I don't know, I don't know if that would be a weird thing. If I was working somewhere, some guy came in asking, where's this? And you're like, I'm going to be honest, like, you sit down and be like, are you going through anything? You try to be the therapist, you try to stop them. You assume. Be like, are you competing in the Iditarod? But, I don't know. I'm not promoting you do it. It's just like, if you work somewhere, like, what is your responsibility to what someone's intention of getting something is? If you have a bad feeling about something, is your excuse, well, I don't get paid enough for this. If you witness abuse in a parking lot, if you witness a boyfriend and a girlfriend getting into it, and you see through the car, you see a guy getting a little physical, and you're just at work and you're like, I don't get paid enough for this. There's some people that rationalize it. Now, me, I like to think I step in, depending on the situation. But it's also easier said than done. Because then you got to think about, oh, am I at risk of losing my job? Because now doing the right thing puts you in more trouble. Like, it's odd that, not to go back to, the courtroom and stuff, but it really does feel like the objectives of law is not necessarily to get the right verdict. I do think there should be there should be common sense law. Like, if you're a lawyer, someone comes to you with a case, and it's pretty obvious, you're like, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. You did this shit. And you know they did it, but you still go to court trying to say they didn't. And yet, the lawyers are never held accountable for that shit. And they know, like, the whole point is finding the truth. But we have people that are paid privately, which lawyers are. They are private firms. They are paid to convince people to lie. So why is it okay that lawyers lie, knowingly lie, to defend? But if you lie under oath, if you lie through the process, that could be held against you. That's what's odd to me. Shouldn't the lawyers, if they are aware of something, they have information that is whatever the case is about, proves they did do the thing? I think it should be like, look, here's some information we got. Here you go. And they forfeit the money. But that's probably why. Because then they forfeit the money. I don't know. I guess that's why I couldn't be a lawyer, I have morals. I like to think so. But having morals gets you whacked out here. Speaking of whack. Quack, quack. Today's sponsor is Aflac. I don't even know if they're a company anymore. I would like a pet Limu. More like Mimu. Jesus. I need to get back on the alcohol. That's a wild thing to say. I will say, I thought about it. Not like getting, but I thought about, I was going to get like some liquor a couple weeks ago. Not for anything crazy. Just like, just cause. I like bored, have too much time, whatever. And I really thought, like, why? Like, why would I just have the idea of just, like, there's no reason. I have no urge to, like, want to drink. Like, I'm not, like, I'm fine. But I'm just like, why did I just, like, hey, let's, it's almost like it's just there because it's, like, maybe things are just too stale. Not much going on. You're just, like, maybe you feel like you're not as sharp-minded, which is odd that you would resort to alcohol to be more sharp-minded. Because it's not going to do that. But it's like maybe like you feel too tight. You feel too wound up. You need to loosen up. And I thought about getting it. And, I remember I was thinking about getting it. And that same night, I was going online. And I came across this story of a guy who drank half a bottle of liquor in literally a matter of like 30 seconds. And then he literally died of alcohol poisoning, which is odd because he didn't drink anything that no one has never drank before. I think it was just like some Maker Mark's bourbon, some shit that dude drank. He bought it, literally went home, drank half of it, but like he drank it all like at once. I think that's where he fucked up. And he just died. No, like, he's been a casual drinker, nothing crazy, but he just died of alcohol poisoning. And what people don't realize about alcohol is really, technically, it doesn't take much for you to be poisoned, like legitimately poisoned. But our bodies are kind of like this fight or flight where like we react, like we can handle a lot more than what they, will tell us will kill us. I think when people over-exaggerate their stories, like, the doctor said, I was basically dead. It's like, no, they didn't. You ever come across anyone that, like, they got knocked out or something, They went in they're like, I was in a coma for 3 years. It's like, bro, I saw you 2 months after you got knocked. Like, I was in a coma for 3 years. They said, if I was punched right here instead of here, I would have been dead on the spot. And you're like, no, you wouldn't. Everyone embellishes their worst stories, their worst moments, their great moments. They're like, I was literally just 1 day away from quitting my job, and then they promoted me. It's like, no, they didn't. You were not 1 day away. You were like 1 year away. Thank God for editing, because I'm eating my dick right now. Not literally. Probably more entertaining than anything that's been said. But, hey. Oh, God. I got some titties. Whew. I will say, it is odd. Like, if you are someone that loves sucking titties, right? It's weird how you could be attracted to something, but if that attraction thing is you, then it's weird or it's self-serving. Like, if you are a guy and you love just sucking titties, generally woman, but you have a titty you could suck yourself, right? Now, obviously, it's not lactate and all that stuff. I'm not saying suck your titty. What I'm saying is, why is it odd? Like, if you're a guy, if you're a straight male, you don't like dick, but you touch your dick and you pleasure yourself. So, if I like titties, why can't I pleasure myself with my own titty? Why can't I suck my own titty? Sure, you may get a hairball, but so what? Here's your thought of the day. It's like, because by definition, if you're straight, you touching your dick, you're touching dick, whether it's yours or whatever, it's your dick. Is it a sign that you actually would want to touch another person's dick? No, but think about the thought process. Did your mind know it's your dick? I don't know. God damn, I hate myself. Thank God for editing. Oh, God. Whew. Boy. My dad used to always say, thick thighs make a man cry, but if you drive away, it'll only be hers. He never said that. Well, not that I know of. You know what's odd? There's a clip resurfacing of, and I know people don't, it's one of those things where I know media is different, but there's a woman on the Wendy Williams show, and, Wendy goes to the audience, gets someone, she asks, what is the question yours? She basically said, well, my husband said that we wanted 2 kids when we got together, whatever. They had 1 kid, and after they had that one, he said, I don't want any more kids. Which, look, he's going back on his word. Is it wrong? Yeah. But, I think that's pretty normal, because typically if you have 1 kid, it's pretty stressful. It probably just needs some time, whatever. But she said that in her friends group, they've said, well, just lie and say that you're on the Plan B stuff, or that you are on birth control, whatever, and just lie about it so that he's just squirting away with no array. And I'm like, I feel like, and of course, like, well, it's your body. It's like, yeah, but, isn't that the same? If you're lying, if you were directly lying, saying you're on something when you're not, and the result of that is you getting pregnant, I don't think it's any different than someone, than someone saying they have a STD and they don't tell you. Or they tell you they don't, and you find out they do when they know they did. I don't think it's any different. And I know it's like extreme cases, but the weird part that was turned me off about was just the fact that she was so like, they joked and laughed about it and insinuated, I'm not telling you to do it, but and that's how you create bitterness. Now, I'm not saying, because I'm going to be honest, like, regardless if someone tells you they can't get pregnant for whatever reason, whether they're on the pill or they're this, that, and the other, or they are less likely because when they were 13, they had some surgery about something and it makes it impossible. Like, anytime you decide to do things unsafely, for one, be ready to have a kid. Just be ready for it. Secondly, yeah, just be ready. Moral of the story is, always be ready to have a child. Just have it. Fuck it. At all times. But like, that's the thing is, like, you at the same time, you got to take accountability even if someone tells you something, right? And to be honest, if you don't trust what someone's telling you, you probably shouldn't have sex with them. And that's not me trying to put the blame on anyone. It's actually me holding everyone accountable. Every time two people decide to do, like, regardless of what one person says can or won't happen because of this medical thing or whatever, you should always assume the worst possible case outcome. Regardless of marriage, some hookup, whatever. Like, and to me, the reason why that's important is we've gotten too far away of, like, you should always take the risk of pregnancy serious. And that's around, like, we forget, like, and it happens where people are having babies, they don't even know who the father is, or they know who it is and they never tell them. They find out 12 years later. Or it's just people that get mad at each other, resentment because one lied, or it's resentment because they had a child with someone they wish they didn't. One person doesn't want to be part of the kid's life. And it creates a lot more problems when you don't think about who you decide to have these kids with. Not to sound like an old head here, but I just think it's a lack of accountability. It's an excuse for everyone to be promiscuous without consequence. There's nothing wrong if you want to go out and sleep with as many people as you want. Just be okay with what comes with it. It's okay if you want to lie. You want to lie to your partner about you not being able to get pregnant, or you having an STD or not having one. I mean, you do what you want. But if and when the result of what you lied to them happens, chances are it's not going to work out well for you. Chances are you're creating resentment for a child that you had under false conditions and pretenses. Like, and everyone should be held accountable in that. Any guy, any girl included. If you lie to someone about a sexual situation and the result of that, I have no sympathy with what comes after. Hopefully they want to be in the child's life, but honestly at that point, you can't guarantee it. Like, if you lie in bed with people that aren't probably going to take that stuff serious, and then you know what? It is what it is, and you got to be okay with that. Like, if you lie to someone about you not being able to get pregnant and they had that full faith in you and you full knowingly well that was not the case, like, you can't sit there and be all mad when they're mad about it after. I'm not saying they shouldn't be there for the child or take care and all that stuff, but you probably ruined the chance of any civility between you. And you should be to be honest, you should be, if they want to, someone should be able to press charges if they could prove that you lied to them about it knowingly. Because I don't think it's any different than lying to someone about STD. I really don't. Not if you knowingly know what the truth is. Absolutely. You're being reckless. You're being inconsiderate. You are affecting someone else's life by lying. You're putting other people at risk. You're putting your child at risk. So, but what the fuck do I know? Have kids. Just have them. I'll tell you one thing my kid will never have. An STD. I don't know. I mean, if he does, it'll be because he gets older or she gets older and, they do stupid stuff, but I'm not going to pass down STDs to them. Well, I don't know. You can have it. If you created a child with someone and you both had STDs, I'm sure there's something that could get passed on to them. I don't know. I have to re-up my thesaurus on that one. But yeah, moral of the story is just, hey, if you're going to get pregnant, just make sure you know who you're getting pregnant by. Make sure you know who you're impregnating. Everyone should be held more accountable. Is that crazy to ask? I was tired of seeing these stories of people hating the person they created children with, and it won't even be like 10 years after and then, the people just lost their way and became an asshole. It'll be people 2 weeks after they find out they're pregnant. They find out the dude's a piece of shit. They find out they want no part. Or really, I think what having a baby does, it turns people's true colors of their real feelings, because it forces you to face reality. When you don't take someone in a serious manner before a child, when you have a child, it's only become less and less. And you know what? You could take someone so serious before you have a child. Then you have a child, you realize, damn, this person ain't shit, So really, having a child makes the woman realize you ain't shit. That's the moral of the story. But it's like, hey, let me take him for a walk. I would be such an irresponsible. I wouldn't be irresponsible. I think like most people, I would be good for the most part. And then the worst parts of you gets exposed. And then hopefully the best you could do over time is to try to not have your child see the worst parts of you. But that's the inevitable. They're going to see the worst parts of you. And that's kind of where they're going to learn the most. Is daddy crazy for flipping this shit right now? He won't know it then. But then when he's 24, working some dumbass job, working for some asshole, he's going to be like, you know what? He was on to something, Or he gets his first girlfriend and they have their first situation together. And he's going to be like, oh, that's why they were always yelling. That's why they were always arguing over money. That's how it works. They don't see it then. They think you're an asshole. They think you're the worst person ever. Then the older they get, they're like, hey, I think you were on to something. You're like, you're damn right, pal. Now come here, you little rascal. No, I would be. I do think I would be a pretty good father. I think it would take me time. Because I do think, for good-hearted soul people, I do think children make you care less about things that don't matter. Now, you just become more stressed about everything else. But it makes you care so much about nothing else. Which is a good thing for the most part. But I think part of women postpartum and fathers and stuff, they have a child. It becomes their whole life. And they kind of lose their identity of what made them think so highly of themselves to be able to provide a sense of purpose for their child. Not to get too real here. But the same things that make you feel like you'd be a good father before, then you get too caught up in being a father. You forget about being a person, a man, a woman, that your children actually sees every day. Because when you're being a father, you're kind of playing a role of, I'm here for you, whatever you need, I'm here to teach you, make you feel comfortable and safe and all that stuff. But it's sometimes that peer-to-peer, like the everyday struggle, the everyday adversity. When you hide those aspects of going for something and it felt everyone, like you kind of just live in this bubble of being a good father, but you're not actually being the best version of yourself that will actually make your child actually see everything of what it's about to work hard and strive for something. Being able to think for yourself. Being able to really dictate the life you want. Because they live in this, children, they live in this bubble. They live in your house. They live to whatever places you take them. They live at whatever their friends like or whatever. And it takes a while for younger people to see outside themselves. So, God, I'm so tired of talking. So he asked for paperwork and all that good stuff. So, this all started last Thursday. Today is Tuesday. I've given them all the documentation, blah, blah, blah. Today, I've been calling every day to see the status of my situation. And they keep saying, they're still reviewing it. I'm like, okay. I call again. Still reviewing it. Call Monday. Actually, I go in person. It says they need this. I'm like, I already gave them that. Oh, well, then they're just reviewing it. So I called today, this morning. I'm like, hey, trying to see the status. He says, hey, you need this paperwork. And I said, I've been through this multiple times. They already have this. He said, oh, well, they need it in a PDF file. And I'm like, well, I don't have that. He said, well, how about you just come in and we'll take care of it? I'm like, we could have took care of this the previous 2 or 3 times. And my first instinct is to be an asshole. The incompetence. The, what the fuck are we doing here? What is going on? What kind of organization? Who's your manager? And then I had to remind myself, my incompetence is why I'm asking you for money. And that's the thing, sometimes we get so caught up, especially when we are trying, I wouldn't even say stressful moments, but we're in tight spaces, as the kids say. You're in a bound. You're in a sticky situation. you think you're doing your part, and in reality, the reason why you're in this situation is not because of them. You're asking them for a loan. Like, I've never asked for a loan before. I gotta say. Oh, I say that. And technically, I don't know. It's weird how we compartmentalize. Like, I've never asked for money before. But then, you have a car. You have a car payments. You have student loan payment. You have this debt. You have that debt. You put this on a payment plan. And you're like, actually, I have a lot of this. I have a lot of loans. But it's classified different. I've never asked for a personal loan before. It's not something I'm ashamed of by any means. It's something I'm not comfortable with, I'll be honest. I've always I'm a believer in just use the money you have. And if you don't have the money, then you can't afford to do it. Which, is true. I still believe that. Sometimes unemployment for a while, it catches up to you. But the point of all that is sometimes we misdirect our anger. We misdirect our inadequacies. I think it's a quote by Jeff Bezos, and I'm not going to sit here and glaze the guy, but he does have a nice shiny bald head. Glazing. It's like his head looks like a nice honey baked ham. Licking for scraps. Basically your hourly wage if you work there. He said stress comes from when something is in your control and you have not performed action on that. Something along those lines. Basically, stress is when there is something in your control and you haven't portrayed, you haven't performed any tasks to better that. Essentially. I know it's weird quoting the third richest dude in the world when you're asking for a personal loan. But, I do think that's why it's like I'm misdirecting. Like, I was not angry at them. But in my mind, I'm like, how many times do I have to go through this shit? I keep giving you the fucking shit. In any other situation, I wouldn't be that tightly wound or anything. But I kind of sit back and just laugh at myself. Like, I am getting frustrated at, quote unquote, the perceived incompetence of an operation. When the reason why I am in this situation is because of my incompetence of operation. It's just kind of funny how we tend to look past the obvious. And it's easy to blame. It's easy to blame society, the economy. I will say, I'm not a big fan of coming across these things where it is, don't quit your job, the economy, this and that. If you have problems with your job deal, like, I'm not going to sit there and do that either. I'm not really, I don't like these channels. I don't like when it's to put this fear into people. And it is reality, but it's also a lot of fear. Social media, and I know it's a lot of reaction channels, people putting copiations together and stuff. But it's this fear of don't quit your, it's someone telling you how to do your situation because of their situation. When not all situations are created equal. And everyone's like, oh, do not quit your job until you secure another job and your name's on the dotted line for a start time. And I get, but I think if you're always living like that, you are always kind of living your life based off someone else's terms. Instead of taking a leap of faith, instead of taking action, when your soul says quit, I'm not recommending doing it, by the way. Hey, it is the better, easier route. But I also think another great route is quitting your job impulsively, having nothing lined up, and then letting God pull your dick around. But in all seriousness, I think my issue with these type of channels and these antidotes is it is a way to keep people in fear all the time. A lot of these things we internalize is fear of being perceived So what if you don't have a job that pays what your old job paid? Does that make you less valuable of a person? It's weird that the same people that will complain about society, that will complain about wages, they'll complain about, the big man's got them held down, that they're stuck in a system. They're the same ones that go around, and because they have a job that pays $20 an hour and they go to a job where the place pays their employees $16 or $17, they have this perceived kind of persona about them that is unwarranted, let's just say. And these videos and people that go around with that mindset, you intuitively just think you have a better sense of yourself just because of how much, quote unquote, your perceived value is. Because it's odd, I'll be transparent here. My old job, I got up to making $24 an hour plus overtime. Which, in overtime, basically $36 an hour. I was also working 60, 70 hours a week. For literally, I look back from the months of July through December when I left. Every single week, there was not a single paycheck that was less than $1,100. And I had some paychecks that were $1,400, $1,500. Is that life-changing money? No. But it's enough money to where, depending on your standards of living and stuff, you can save up if you know what you're doing. And it's weird because now that I don't have that job and I'm unemployed and I recently got a part-time job or whatever, my value of myself, that work ethic that got me that 24 an hour, that one job has not changed. But just because now I'm in a different position, I do have a feeling. And just by being in that environment, I could just tell the way customers treat employees, what they perceive make X amount. And it's weird because you're the same person. But just because a big, broad company has said, we will pay you this instead of that, and it's not even that much of a life-changing difference, some reason the average common person will look at you in a weird way. It's weird. I don't have a college education, and I made more this past year than most of my friends that have degrees have. And they are struggling. They don't make any money in their field. They are already quit. I have people that are close to me that have college degrees, and they're saying you're stupid for quitting that job. And I was like, the way I look at it, and the way I think a lot of people, if you can do something once, why can't you do it again somewhere else? If you're truly confident in your abilities and what you bring to the table, and you feel like it's either not being best served there or how much that job occupies your life, as much as I'm grateful for money that I haven't made up to that point, working one job stability, but almost job stability to a point where it becomes your life in a weird way. There's a lot of people that can't relate to that. There's a lot of people that can, but they really can't. Like, I know people with full bachelor's degrees that make less than I did the past couple years. And they have a lot more student debt than I did. I worked my way up from the bottom. I don't have that entitlement about me. And that's why, people are like, oh, you haven't had a job for aren't you worried about X, Y, and Z? It's like, I mean, I'm worried to an extent, but I'm not worried that I'll never make that money again. Not in the slightest. Because if you have the work ethic to work your way up in one place, work ethic translates across the board. It may take more time. You may have to lessen your self-esteem. You may have to take a little bit less money for a period of time and find what you're looking for. But you can't be scared to leave something just because it pays you a little bit more than the competitors. I'm not saying quit your job if you have no money saved, but what I am saying is you can't have these YouTube channels, these having this fear of the economy's fucked up. You get like, I literally applied for a job and literally got a call back and literally got the job 3 days later. There are jobs that are hiring out here for part-time and stuff like that. I'm not, I know for like tech and very specific careers, yes. But like a lot of people say you can't get a job. That's absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. I've had now 2 jobs in the past 3 or 4 months. Those jobs I applied to, literally applied to it. Within a couple days, got an email, come in for an interview, came in for the interview, got the job. What that shows me is that, 1, I'm a good interviewer. 2, if you're really willing to work whatever you feel is necessary, there are jobs available for you. It is not that hard. It's not that easy to get a job. But these people saying they can't find a job in their specific field. Yeah, that may be true. There are people who say you can't even get a job. Like, yeah, you can. You absolutely can. But they want to have you fear that so there's quote-unquote loyalty. They want to have you feel that fear, these companies. These people that are telling you this because they want you to feel this fear of this job will determine your livelihood for the next 5 years. Because if you leave this job, there's nothing better for you. If you stay at this job, there's still nothing better for you. That's why you got to make a personal decision. Trust who you are. Trust what you stand for. And everything will take care of itself. But everyone wants to be comfortable. That's the thing. Not to get too preachy here, but I do think it's important. Like, I haven't had this type of financial situation in a while to where I'm lower on money, but I have no problems. I'm going to make that back. Because I take some time, unwind, really think about what I wanted, what's important to me, the type of lifestyle I want to live, what I need to do to get to those points. And I identified that what I was doing before, the time, the money, and all that stuff, in the long run, the money I was going to make there was going to take away from potential money of my aspirations I'm going to make somewhere else. You can't be scared to always just leave a job because it pays you a few more dollars an hour than somewhere else. Because if you trust your ability and your skills and what your capabilities are, your ability to adapt, taking risk, then everything will be fine. You may have to humble yourself for a while, work a job that's not quote unquote up to your previous standards or the other people's. But a number per hour doesn't really mean much because it's more about how you manage your money. You've got to do... Shit, I forgot where the fuck I was at. That shit pissed me off. Yeah, look. To me, at the end of the day, you got to have that trust in yourself. You got to trust that you did what you did for a reason. That wasn't just out of impulse. I'm an impulsive person. I got issues. But I tell you what. Behind all these issues that are perceived, there's a real master plan of self-destruction. But I remember, it's like when you know. And it's fun. We all live in this, everyone online is all about, being honest with yourself. People will hurt. What's odd to me? People are more comfortable being harshly truthful about how much they dislike their partners, right? You go online and it's these people just openly like hating their girlfriend, hating their boyfriend. It's just open like I came across this Ramsey clip. This lady said, I absolutely just have no interest in having sex with my husband at all. And I don't feel bad for it. I'm saying, like, what drives someone to that point where their idea is, let me go to a public national radio show, let me talk about how much of what I don't want to do with my husband, and that I don't even really care if he wants it. But they'll be the same ones that won't be honest with themselves about things they dislike, the job they dislike. They won't go to their actual job and tell them how much they suck. But they will be the first to tell their partner how much they suck, when their partner is nothing of why they're unhappy. My thing is, if you were going to complain about one thing, be willing to apply to all different parts of your life. You cannot sit here and people will sit there and beat their partners down physically and emotionally. Tell them everything they're not, everything they wish they were, everything they didn't follow through on their promises and all this stuff. They're not the person they met, all this stuff. They will never have those same, a lot of people don't have that same relationship dynamic expectations held against their occupation because they're afraid of HR and the repercussions of that and losing their job. More people are afraid to lose their job than they are a person they care about. That's why we see this culture of just people treating people disposably. People have more loyalty to their careers and their jobs than they do people that they love and care about. We will rationalize being bad parents if it means that we provided a lot of money for our family. I was at work all the time. I didn't have to be at work that much. We could have budgeted a little, been a much more happier family, be at home more, have a happier marriage, have happier kids. But I'd rather just die away at work and just, this is the one thing I do and this is the only purpose I serve and I don't have to do anything else. Now I'm a bitter old man. That's because they lost their identity. And that's a shame. We're in a real big identity crisis. Because people want to be harsher on people that love them, people that care about them, than the thing that's actually driving them to be unhappy. It really is unfortunate. And it's funny because we just make jokes about this shit. Like, there was another one I heard earlier where this lady said, now granted, their situation says, yeah, hey man, you can't be striving for these dreams when you want to have 6 kids. She's actually got a little bit more of a point. But it's a similar sentiment where she says, I don't care about his dreams. He needs to get a better paying job. When you have 6 kids, yeah, you know what? That's kind of fair. I'll be honest with you. But there are people that will say that, and it's like, okay, let's lay out the pros and cons of this realistic situation. What you're really saying is not about getting a better paying job. You just want more money brought home. Okay, let's say there's another job that has the opportunity where it's a little bit higher pay and there's more opportunity for more hours. So cool. Instead of his 45 to 50 hours, now he's working 62, 65, 70 hours every week. So, brings more money home, but he has nothing else to give you. They have nothing else they can really offer you. Physically, emotionally, anything. People don't want to take in the trade-offs of things. People just want a thing, but don't want to think about the process of what comes with that. I'm not saying you shouldn't aspire to bring more money home over the long period of time. But you got to be honest with yourself. Is the figure of bringing 70,000 home this year going to make our life infinitely better than bringing 52 to 55,000? But we actually have more time to think about what we want to do with this money. Maybe we have more time to actually use this money to invest in something that can make up for that extra $15,000 that they made working a shitload of overtime, or basically not being home for the weekends, or not getting home till 10 o'clock at night after being out since 7 in the morning. Like, what is the trade-off for what you are asking for? But people just want a thing and don't really care how you get there. But how you get there is going to create the resentment between partners, parents, everything and above, friends. There's a price to pay for everything. Everyone's like, oh, you made a lot of money. It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have been willing to do half of what I did to get that money. I know where I worked. I know what the turnover numbers were. Most people don't even last in the lower position. The people that you manage, they don't even last that long because of what the job entails. So when people are like, oh, you're never going to get another financial opportunity like that, it's like, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I'll tell you what, if I have to live like this for the next 5 years of my life, whatever money I get is going to be paid back in some other way. I'm going to lose relationships, friends, family, my partner. I'm going to hurt my body eventually over time. My body's not going to be well equipped to deal with this shit. I'm malnutrition. The demands of the job aren't worth longevity with what comes with it. And I think a lot of people are getting to that point where it's the longevity for what comes with whatever job they're working at is not even worth the money on paper. Because you do the math, you're paying more convenience. You're paying more to rationalize why you do this to yourself, You pay for more than this. It adds up. Because you don't have the time to really think about what you want because you're so involved in what's best for everyone else. But that's the thing when people talk about it, they just want their part. Oh, just bring home more money. It's like, all right, I could do that. But if we're being realistic with our situation, if I bring home more money, I'm not going to be home. No one's going to be home to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to be stuck with the kids even longer. So what is really the trade-off here? And sometimes people are just reduced to one thing. You are just here to do X, Y, and Z. When really we are all here to do an accumulation of responsibilities. And you gravitate towards typically your strengths are. And typically if you're a guy, your strengths are, look, I can work a shitload, I come home, I can do X, Y, and Z, do the lawn and shit. And typically you gravitate to where it's naturally applicable for what you can do. But we have become such an entitled generation of people. I'm going to say anyone from like 34 and under, where it's just, if you don't do this, you're worthless to me. That's why you see a lot of sad individuals. They just throw out numbers. Like, have you ever watched those dumbass red pill podcasts where it's just, they get the dumbest girls out there. Sorry, it is what it. And it's like, how much does a man need to make a year? Oh, he needs to make at least $200,000. They're just throwing numbers out, and they don't even know what the hell that means. They have no reference of what $200,000 a year looks like. They don't have any reference of how much you have to make a week. They don't understand pre-tax, post-tax. They don't understand anything that comes with that territory. They just throw out a number because if you say something medial, you're like settling for some shit. So you just throw a random ass number out there. But if you're saying that all you care about, that's a number, then you're going to get whatever you get with whatever comes at 200,000. You could get a great individual. But you could get a terrible individual. You only know how they get their money. And you may rationalize what they do to get their money because they quote unquote met your criteria. We just have dumb people speaking the loudest, including me. I think we need a more... But like I said earlier, people will be the harshest on people they love and care about. And you know what? There's something to be said because you have expectations. You have guidelines. You have, expectations that a person should have for people. I'm not even talking about like a boyfriend, a husband, a wife, a girlfriend. It's like we will have expectations for... Sorry, I think I heard an armadillo. But like we will have expectations for people throughout our whole life. Like it's wild to me that we'll have there's some people that expect their parents to just be this unconditional force of love their whole life. I know that comes off as insensitive. Well, when I tell you that is not their responsibility, it should be you get what you give out. Like people will think like they can ignore their parents for 10 years of their life. They can go publicly saying, my dad was emotionally abusive, my mom never loved me and all this shit. And then like when they're 33, have a mental breakdown, need to move back home. All of a sudden now it's like, oh, see, you weren't there for me. It's like, you trashed us for fucking years. Why the fuck would I have you come back? Like, fuck you, And you're always going to love your child. You're always going to love your son or your daughter. But I'm not, like, you can't just sit here, shit on me for 12 years because you thought you figured shit out and you realize, I told you, stop fucking these hoes. Stop getting bitches pregnant. Everyone, and that's the thing. People rely on and I promise, there's actually nothing personal going on. I'm attaching this to all about like fear of people's unrationalization of what they feel they deserve. When people say, I know my worth, I know what I deserve and stuff like that, it turns me off because what you deserve is what you put out, and that's what people will get back. If you go into a room and you don't make eye contact, you don't smile at anyone, you don't at least do the minimum of making people feel comfortable, why does someone owe to come up to you to make you feel comfortable? If you have someone that does that, that's great. And maybe you're a shy person, whatever. Like, I get it. But you can't get mad if no one comes up to you to make you feel comfortable when you walked in and there's no reason that you want to make people feel comfortable. And that's what people will have these expectations for their parents, for their partners, is they live in this secular world where it's everything that revolves around meeting status quo. Your life is not any better from 70 to 80K, to 60 to 80K. Is it different? Sure. Can it be easier in some ways? Yeah. But you're not doing much different with those two incomes. You're not really buying a whole nother different type of vehicle. You're not going to live in a whole different type of house. You're not going to sit here and buy a whole lot of different food that you can't get with 60K. It's a self-delusion of we just throw out numbers. And some guy is going to go out there and kill themselves to get an extra 20K a year to meet someone else's satisfaction when it's never going to be enough. Because what they're going to realize, you can make 80K, you can make 100, you can make 150. That is not going to make someone, that is not why they're going to come to you. If anything, you are just going to go out here to make a shitload of money. Not even do something that you care about enough to sacrifice your livelihood, your personal life, to make that money that demeans your moral values, to make X amount of money because you want some approval. It's wild. These damn birds. Sorry, now they're going on a soapbox here. It's just fear, man. Fear. Factor. Today's sponsor, Fear Factor. And I'm at peace with my decision. You know, I know people that have gone back months back when I said I quit my job. I would do it again. You know, and I'll be honest, when you go through this process of running lower on money, you look, it's human nature. You go back and you're like, should I have just done it for a few more months, saved up a few more extra $1,000 for security and all this stuff? It's like, okay, yeah, so I could have stayed an extra 2 or 3 months, left, saved a few more money, saved a few more, and guess what? Then you just delay the process. Now you have a few more extra $1,000 or extra 4 or 5,000, whatever you would have been able to save up. And then you just delay the process of actually starting of what you're trying to do anyways. And then you probably would have rationalized by then, well, you know what, maybe I should just last through, August. Maybe just another year. Because I have friends at my old job and other job where they're like, I'm just going to stay with it for another year. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want to do. And they asked me like, well, I was like, there are times where I think about, should I have just went through it. And I look back at that point. I also forget how ingrained in the process of just being in the cycle, I would legitimately just forget what day it is of the week. Like, everything just felt like one big long ass day. Like 3 days felt like one day because your whole life is just here, there, here. Delaying the process is just giving you more time to doubt yourself. Damn, that's actually a quote. Rip the Band-Aid off. Say you keep the money. And go about a new journey. And accept with what comes with it. You may lose all the money that you saved up. And that's okay. You will be all right. You have plenty of time to make that money back. And probably to make more money than you ever made working at X, Y, and Z. So, look, I just think at the end of the day, if you are going to do something, really trust your conviction. Because I look back, there are times like financially would have made more sense. Maybe I shouldn't have taken as much time off. I'm like, no, this is exactly what I needed. And I'm cool with that. It's human nature to doubt yourself, how you did it, why you did it. But the whole intention of why you did it is what matters. Everything else is just numbers on a screen. Everything else is just fallacies. Everything else is just optics. But the real genuine, because I think about, if I would have stayed an extra 2 or 3 months, what are the price that comes with that? Probably would have lost my girlfriend. Probably would have lost myself in terms of just like, what's the purpose of doing this shit? Like, I become exactly what I said I didn't want to become. I accepted a long time ago. Money is not what drives me. It is not. And it's weird when money doesn't drive you, money seems to find you. And that's the weird part. When I stop caring about how much money I want to make in a year, that's when opportunities to make, because you're just focused on the process, becoming good at something to where they want to give you promotions. You're better at your job when you're not worried about where is this going to lead you. You know what? This next job I have, you know what? I'm going to give everything I got. It's a whole different thing, something I'm not familiar with. And look, if it may be one of those things where it starts as a part-time and then in a month it becomes my full-time. Or it could be something after a couple weeks. They're like, hey, you know what? We might go our separate way. I don't know. And I'm okay with that. I'm not entitled to be there forever. I'm not entitled for it to work out. But I'm going to just go in day by day, control what I can control. And I know the thing is, like, the price you pay for thinking you're entitled to something is going to cost you more in the long run. I could have stayed, probably got another job promotion. Probably within a year or two if I really wanted to. But I know like if you could just look at old episodes. If you don't believe me, like, this is all public information in terms of how I look. I was legitimately malnutrition. Like, I was so ingrained in the job, physically demanding and all that. Like, I lost weight without even trying, and I worked out. I would forget to eat what I needed in the day. I lost so much weight. I could legitimately stay above like 188 at some point, which for me is like, pretty damn light. For context right now, I am 237. Granted, it's not all good weight. And I put on weight pretty damn quick. And that's what's like, those daily, like, that daily demand, that daily recommendation. I didn't even realize how beneficial it was until you don't do it for a week or two. And then you're like, oh shit. Oh shit. I'm a fat fuck. Like, and then you spiral. And then you're like, oh man, now I gotta do this shit on my own free time and I get paid for it. I gotta actually get steps in. I hate treadmills so fucking much. But I say all that, to come back around. This whole episode is just going to be about complaining about society. But you know what? Consider this a bonus, But for me personally, I knew it. Like, you could look back, like December, November, like I was thin and frail as fuck. Because I legitimately didn't have the time to get enough sleep, eat enough food, be what I needed to be for what the position required, and be able to do anything outside of work enjoyable, except go to the gym. And the gym became my only sanctuary. Which is why, like, one thing, and here's the thing you realize, when you take time off, you really actually find out what actually drives you. Because I don't have the same drive to work out and be ripped and be big and strong. I will again eventually. But it's almost like, what am I training for? Before I rationalized, I was training so I don't get injured because of the strain. And it was good for my body. It broke it down, but it also kept me afloat at the same time. But it's a lot of maintenance on your body. And I look back. I just look back at that time. And I knew I wasn't a person that was enjoyable to be around. And I did, as human nature would be, oh, look, I make money. I don't have to do shit. Not that I treated my girlfriend poorly on purpose or like was purposely lazy, but like, I was like, I'm working 65, 70 hours a week, going on days off, going in to do extra work, going in to train for no reason, just to make some extra money. And I did kind of like, without you real, like when your whole life is that, you're like, why do I need, if I don't even have the time to enjoy my off day, why do I need to come home and do this that I don't want to do? It's human nature. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to make a decision. And it may make her unhappy. It may make people around me question my judgment. People think I'm being irrational. Like, I'll be transparent. Like, my parents were not a big fan. I quit a job that paid me decently. In today's economy, I mean, is it decent for today's economy? I don't know. It's probably barely survivable. But it's not easy to make that off the street. So, and weirdly enough, my girlfriend was very accepting. But she worried, yeah. But she was actually very supportive of it. That's why I was a little surprised by it. Because I thought she just wanted me to work she's like, no, because you know what? I could just tell how unhappy you were. And what it was doing to you physically, your body. Like, you didn't even look recognizable. You literally look like Castaway. And it's a different of, like, generations. My partner was very supportive. My parents weren't not supportive. But obviously, they were, like, worried. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I don't know. You know? But at the end of the day, I know, like, you're so worried that everyone's going to think you're an idiot, this, that, and the other. And you realize there's more people that understand what you're doing than not. It's these people that want to make you afraid about the economy because they're so caught up in politics. They're so caught up in, you know, the Department of Education. They're so caught up in all this shit, and they're so worried about stuff that's doesn't really affect their lives, but it gives them an excuse to be unhappy. You realize it's just a lot of people that are they're afraid. They're afraid of what not having a job implicates. They're afraid of their ability to do anything. I wouldn't say that. They're afraid for the unknown. And there's a part of me, the unknown is always fun in theory because it brings life. And then you realize the unknown is very lifeless because there's no certainty. And I realize there are a lot of things I like certainty. And there's a lot of things I'm okay with the unknown. And for some reason, job security, life hinging on the balance of where you live, I love it. But, you know, if I get out of a trade too early, you know, hold on to too long. But, yeah. Time is running out. Ooh. Say less. Sorry, I just read an email. That was actually pretty exciting. Woohoo. God, I gotta fart so bad. But yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. You know what? I'm not going to go the full hour. I'm cool with that. I'm actually really cool with that. So, yeah. I don't know if that'll be episode 334 or if it'll be just I'll combine it with 333. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah. Have a great day, morning, night, evening.